All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Saturday, March 29th, and it is day one of the Elite Eight. I'm sorry, Jake was right.
Oh, no, my mic's just going to be muted the whole episode. We were talking before this, for people watching, wondering what the hell is happening here. We were chatting before the podcast, like we typically do, because we're supposedly friends, and I just got cut off with the start. So, F me, right?
He was right in the middle of a sentence, and I just started the intro. Yeah, I just wanted to get into it because I don't really care what he had to say. So anyway, this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns. And we're just in that kind of mood right now. I don't know what it is, but we're in that kind of mood. And so day one of the Elite Eight in the books. We had one great game, one flop. It seems like that's kind of been the recurring theme throughout all of the tournament. We get a good game, then we get a really bad game, and then we get an okay game, and then we get a pretty bad game. And
it's always the game we don't expect to be good that's good.
We switched it, to be honest with you.
We tried, but it wasn't genuine.
No, it wasn't. No, we tried to jinx it. So, but Florida Texas Tech was the game of the day. Duke Alabama ended up flopping with a Duke blowout. And tomorrow we've got Michigan State versus Auburn, and we've got Houston, Tennessee. We'll give a quick little rundown on those games following our breakdowns of the two men's games. And then we also are going to talk about the Texas-Tennessee women's game of the Sweet 16 with the Lady Longhorns advancing to the Elite Eight for the fourth time in 5 years. Also, Texas baseball gets the clean sweep over Missouri. And women's softball, I think, did they end up winning the series?
They play tomorrow.
Oh, they play tomorrow. That's right. So, but the series is split as of right now.
Thanks for letting me finish my sentence there. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This is how it's going to be the rest of the podcast now.
Did the middle of your sentence interrupt the beginning of my sentence? You're allowed to speak, Jake.
Oh, thank you. I give you permission. That's my fault. I'm just speaking out of turn here.
Yeah, that's okay. Just don't let it happen again. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the on the women's bracket, Jake. Let's start with the headliner of the day, and it was Texas beating Tennessee to advance to the Elite Eight. 4 Elite Eights in the last 5 years, Jake. This women's program with Vic Schaefer at the helm. That is kind of where I would love to see the men's program, is just constantly making runs. Maybe not 4 Elite Eights in 5 years, but man,
4 Sweet 16s in 5 years. That's where the men's program's at, as far as being what I'd be thrilled with.
Yeah, I'd be very happy with just competing in the tournament year in, year out. And so they get the win over Tennessee, 67-59. And Tennessee came back, made it a good game. They dominated the third quarter going into the fourth quarter. And it felt as though this Lady Longhorn team maybe wasn't going to close this game out as strongly as they did. But thankfully they did. And that was really not behind the shoulders of your typical players that maybe you would think. If you would have just guessed Madison Booker had a great game, she did lead the team in scoring, but I don't think she played her best basketball by any stretch of the imagination. Taylor Jones as well. I thought she was a little slow out there compared to the Tennessee Lady Vols' bigs, but really it was behind Bree Preston, the freshman. She had a huge fourth quarter that kind of just energized. She was kind of the Kendall Weaver of the team today in terms of she was the energy. She was the one that was matching Tennessee's intensity on defense with the full court press. And really Preston and Lee, I thought, were the ones that jumped out to me of having the two best games.
I think Preston was the MVP of this game because when it came to crunch time in the fourth quarter, she was the one making plays on both sides of the court, on the offensive end and on the defensive end. She finished with 12 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals.
The steals were big.
led the team in steals. They were also all just crucial in crucial moments.
Timely.
And this is a game where Texas dominated the first and the fourth. They lost the second and the third. They started strong. They finished strong. I mean, 17-9 in that fourth quarter. And a lot of that on the back of Preston. When the team needed a igniter to kick in for them, she was the one who did that. And just a huge game from her as a freshman. And really the reason I would say the reason the Longhorns are still dancing, because we talk about it all the time. Great teams find ways to win when they play bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this game was. Credit to Tennessee. Tennessee knows how to play this Lady Longhorns team well. They were all over the boards. I'm trying to look at offensive rebounds, 17-9 for Tennessee. You do not see that happen to this Lady Longhorns team. And Tennessee did a really good job on the boards. They did a pretty solid job in staying close in turnovers. So they had 18, which is a lot, but points off turnovers was pretty even. Really, most of this game was even. It just came down to how the Longhorns opened and how they closed, because those middle periods were not good.
No, they weren't. And but it felt to me that Tennessee had this high pressure intensity that Texas beat early in the game. Like you said, in the opening quarter, Texas was able to kind of beat that full court press, but it felt as though the intensity and the pressure Tennessee was putting on Texas was getting to Texas. Had a lot of bad fouls, sloppy fouls from Madison Booker, and just some frustration moments from the team that Vic Schaefer had to call timeout and kind of just keep the level-headed approach to this team. And thankfully, with the leadership of a Taylor Jones and a Rory Harmon, that you kind of get some of those players that have been in this situation before and know that emotions can run high. And it felt to me through the third period or through the third quarter that Texas's feet were just slower than Tennessee's. Tennessee was getting to all the 50-50 balls, all the second chance opportunities, all the hustle plays. Tennessee was winning those hustle plays over Texas within it's to start the second half in the third quarter. But thankfully, like we said, with the Energizer Bunny that plays that Preston made, it was kind of really those plays that elevated Texas and kind of jump-started Texas to win the fourth quarter 17-9. And that's really what put them over the edge and closed this game out.
Yeah, I mean, if you just looked at the first and the fourth quarters, you'd think Texas won this game in a blowout. But Tennessee they did a great job of calling. I will say Texas still led about 85 to 90% of this game.
Yeah.
But there were moments, especially in that third quarter, and even early in the fourth, where you go, this feels like their season might be ending, which would have been a horrible way for them to end. Losing in the Sweet 16 for this team would have felt like a complete failure.
Yeah. It would have felt like a disappointment.
But to me, it does feel like their lack of just single elite scorer, like that can shoot the three ball, that can, they have a lot of players who can get their own shot, but it's all kind of in the lane. Mm-hmm. And it feels like that lack of just one dynamic guard when it comes to shooting, this is just purely from a shooting standpoint, is really what's going to make it hard for them to win a title this year.
Because Madison Booker is a great scorer. She's a mid-range in the paint type scorer. She can create her own shot. She is great on the baseline. But beyond the three-point line, no one on this team is very reliable from beyond the arc in terms of three-point shooting, which is why we've consistently said, keep the three-point shooting to a minimum. Less than 10 a game is probably exactly where Texas needs to be in terms of having success and getting the looks that they want. They did only shoot 7 threes in this game. They shot 3 of 7, so they played the game plan they wanted to play. Again, Tennessee's just a really feisty, hard-nosed team that didn't allow anything easy for Texas. Texas had to work their asses off the whole game to get all 67 points.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee got obviously a lot more shots up because of the offensive rebounding, but Tennessee shot 26 three-pointers, by the way, just to compare the differences in style. But yeah, Tennessee, I think, just stylistically gives this team issues because the first game was close. This game, I think, was closer than what the final score shows. And yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's a win. and any win is a good win in the NCAA tournament. But I think we both agree they're going to have to play better to beat TCU.
Yeah, well, Haley Van Leith set a career high in points in the Sweet 16 to elevate TCU to advance to their program's first ever Elite Eight on the women's bracket, and with a fun win, a pretty dominant win, not dominant win, but a controlling win over Notre Dame today. So the tournament is just about set up. I know UConn dominated Oklahoma. USC beat K-State, and so they will advance to the Elite Eight as well, and they'll get those games going, I believe, starting tomorrow. So it should be a fun stretch for the women's bracket. And on the men's side, we'll go ahead and jump into it with the first game of today. Florida, Texas Tech. Jake, this game was a really fun game from opening tip to the final buzzer.
Well, I would say one of the better games of the tournament. And we've had some good games now start to get some notches in the belt of some good games in the Sweet 16 and now the Elite Eight. This was just not the game I was expecting to be, but Texas Tech we said they were going to have to play their best game of the tournament by far to compete in this game. They played their best game by far in this tournament. I would
say, and then some.
Yeah, I would agree. And then some. I mean, they took care of the ball. They fought on the boards. Florida still beat them on the boards for sure. I'm pulling up the stats now. Yeah, Florida won the boards by 7, 42-35, but Texas Tech still kept it close. Florida's a really good rebounding team. And I mean, Texas Tech led this game by 10 with 6:18 left. It was really, I think it was a 16-2 or 18-2 run to end the game for Florida that won them this game. Texas Tech had full control of this game late in the second half. It was back and forth for the first, was it 20 or 30 to 34 minutes of this game.
Yeah.
Then it was all Texas Tech for about 4 to 6 minutes. And then Florida just dominated the closing of this game. And if you're a Tech fan, it does, despite the fact you played well, you made an Elite Eight, it's got to hurt to lose this game, though ironic in a way whenever you kind of stole a win in the Sweet 16 that you should not have won by coming back from 16 to then blow a 10-point lead with about 6 minutes left and lose this game.
Yeah, they had at the 3-minute mark, at 3 minutes and 14 seconds, Texas Tech had a 94% chance of winning this game with a 9-point lead, and ended up squandering it after flurry. I think 3 straight made 3-pointers by Florida, and then just like that, Florida had the lead in less than 2 minutes. And I mean, it's just one of those crazy March Madness games of it's not over until the final buzzer sounds. And it was a great individual performance as well by Walter Clayton Jr. He had 30 points. He was 13 of 14. Here's the thing with me, though, Jake. These teams that are at this point in the season, every single one of them, 80 as a team, 80% free throw shooting as a team, and their best players get to the line, and they're 85% free throw shooters. Walter Clayton went 13 of 14 from the free throw line. He shot 50% from the field today, 7 of 14, finished with 30 points. And it was just one of those performances from Florida that proved, yep, they're the 1 seed, and they're the 1 seed for a reason. And they didn't shy away from the big moment. They played their best when they needed them to play the best. Darian Williams, he's a player that had a couple of really good looks at the end of that game, but it just seemed like he's a great scorer, but I don't know if you want him being your primary guy, your go-to guy in that moment.
Yeah, you mentioned free throws, and I just looked at Florida shot 93%. 25-27. Texas Tech 53.8%.
Yep.
JT Toppin, who's about, I think, around a 60 to 65% free throw shooter.
Big missed free throws. Well, that was the whole stretch. That stretch, Jake, where they were down by 9 points and they had a 94% chance of winning. Texas Tech went to the free throw line like 3 or 4 times straight and missed. They missed all their free throws.
I think Darian Williams, he was 2 of 3 from the free throw line, but I think his one miss was on the front end of a 1-on-1.
Yep.
And then JT Toppin shot the rest because everyone else didn't miss. but 7 of 13 from the line. Florida got to the line just a lot more, but that's kind of, I mean, how Florida stylistically plays compared to Texas Tech.
Yeah, Texas Tech doesn't do a lot in the paint. They want to be on the perimeter, and you're not going to get to the free throw line if you're hanging around the 3-point line, So, Jake, the officiating, it seems a little suspect sometimes, man. The amount of reviews and the amount of times they have to say, is that a goaltending? Is that not a goaltending? We're going to review the goaltending at a commercial break, and we'll come back. Florida had a basket, an offensive basket interference on the dunk, and holds on to it, lets go of it, and it rattles, and the ball goes in. They say no points, and then I think on the ensuing possession, Walter Clayton gets fouled at the 3-point line, goes to the line to shoot 3, and they're down by 4, and all of a sudden the game comes back, and they've added 2 points on because they reviewed the original basket, and they were saying, oh yeah, no, that wasn't offensive interference. It was a good made shot. And now Florida takes the lead with Walter Clayton Jr. going to the free throw line to shoot three free throws. And it's just like, what are we? It just feels like they're so nitpicky on, oh, he fouled him with 22 seconds on the clock, not 21.9 seconds on the clock. Let's fix it. Okay, a tenth of a second. I know it can be important at certain times, but like, guys, can we just play the game? Like, do we have to review everything?
For me, like the reviewing during the breaks, I don't mind. Like even the offensive goaltend, I don't mind those because you're getting it right and you're doing it during a break. It has no effect on the flow of the game, essentially. I really get a problem in what is the last minute of the game now. And I think it plays a factor in why we haven't seen some of the crazy finishes because there's no rhythm, there's no flow to the end of these games. And a lot of that is because they're reviewing for tenths of a second. And yes, every tenth of a second matter, but not whenever you're completely destroying the flow of the game because you're reviewing whether it was at 21.9 seconds or 22 or 22.1. I don't care.
You get to huddle with your coaches, and your coaches get to say, hey, let's come up with a game plan right here. It's not just an inbound run down the court, run a play, and let's get this thing going. There's no, like you said, it throws off all type of rhythm and flow to the game of whether you're on offense or defense or whatever that looks like. And you're probably right, Jake. I would put that more as a contributing factor to the lack of buzzer beaters or, close finishes that we've had, because teams get to just kind of sit there on their bench and come up with a game plan of what they want to do on their next possession. They get to make a sub. They get to do all sorts of things during these reviews. And we're reviewing every clock situation after every shot, it feels like. And it's just like, guys, let's get the game going. Like, it's the final 2 minutes. It's already slow enough as it is with intentional fouls and stuff and timeouts. We don't need to review it as well. So, but yeah, it's gotten to a point to where I feel like I'm just old man yelling at a cloud, but it's
not old man yelling at a cloud. Everyone's talking about this. It's worse than it's ever been. Yeah. This year's the worst I've ever seen it with the amount of reviews that are taking place, especially the checking the clock ones, unless it was an actual clock malfunction. And we're talking seconds. If you're reviewing for tenths of a second and you're not below 5 seconds on the clock, where it's like to determine whether a team can even get a final shot off.
Yes.
You should not be doing it.
It doesn't matter. It just doesn't really.
And even if it does matter, it's not worth the stoppage of the flow of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It should be situationally important. Of like, I will say the one thing that they probably could have reviewed it on, and it wasn't even this was the review. They were literally checking to see when they blew the whistle. It was a 10-second, it could have been a 10-second violation in the backcourt. I don't think they can change the call because they called the foul anyway. So it's not like they can go back and say, oh, it was a 10-second violation. It wasn't a foul. I don't think they could go back and change that call anyway.
I thought they were just checking for a clock malfunction, like changing the game clock and
so I thought they were doing the 10-second violation thing. What they were actually doing was they were just like, oh, it was 21.8 seconds, not 22 seconds. I was like, what are we doing here, people? Yeah. Like, what's the point of that? And so, yeah, that's where I just get really frustrated. But it was a great game. It was a really good, well-played game by Florida. Congratulations. They get to the Final Four for the first time since 2014. And it just feels like this was a perennial basketball program that got to the Final Four. And it had been a little bit of a break, a little over a decade since we'd seen them last in a Final Four. But here they are back in it, and they are awaiting the winner of Auburn and Michigan State. Jake, Alabama and Duke. This game, it felt like Duke from the very opening tip was going to win this game.
As soon as they were up 15-5 or whatever it was,
it stayed at a 9 to 10 point lead the entire game.
I'm sick of these games I get excited for flopping.
Yeah.
This game flopping was a tragedy for me. Because this should have been a fun game. It was not even fun. The over didn't hit. That was like the most confident out of all these bets I've been hitting, because March has still been incredible to me. I'm still up a lot of money. But for this bet not to hit is the first bet that hasn't hit for me that kind of pissed me off. Because it was like, this was like this is free money, and I shouldn't have said that crap. That was me getting overconfident, and the Lord striketh me down. Because I got too confident.
Gods made you pay for that.
And it didn't even come close. I knew the over wasn't hitting at halftime. And I was just like, what the, like Alabama. I mean, if you're Alabama, you're like, why'd we have to make 25 threes last in the previous game?
Yeah.
I think you never follow up a game like that by doing it again.
If you're a BYU Cougar, you're probably pretty upset about this game. I'd have to imagine.
I mean, Alabama just shot lights out in that game and then couldn't hit the side of a barn wall. Now Duke contributes to that. And this is what I was worried about, is just Duke being a better defensive team and still just about as good as on offense as Alabama. It being this type of game, I just wish we would have got Alabama at their full, even though I don't like Alabama, I wish we got them at their full strength.
I wish we would have gotten 2 nights ago Alabama and not this.
Yeah, just because it could have been such an epic game, but it was such an epic flop.
Yeah.
You texted me with 3 minutes left getting ready to record. It's like, this is not what this was supposed to be.
Right. Yep. No, 100%, Jake. Let's go ahead. Texas baseball, let's go ahead and let's
preview tomorrow.
Yeah,
also, I'm just going to ask you right now, who would you pick to win it all right now?
Who would I pick, like right now, or who's on my bracket?
Yeah, if you were redoing it right now from now, you have no idea of you're severed from your prior bracket pick. Who would you pick it to win it all right now?
My any with an unbiased look at it would pick Duke.
Yeah. And probably by a lot.
And
right
probably
now,
with a pretty heavy amount of betting money going towards that and feeling pretty confident about it.
And Duke winning is the funniest outcome, because the ACC was objectively garbage, but they'll have the national champion.
Yeah. But yeah, Duke looks far and away as though they're the best team in this tournament, and they have really. And Jake, we said they probably won't even get to contested by the Elite Eight. They won't get to contested maybe by the Final Four. And I would say their closest game right now, oddly enough, has been that Arizona game.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and that game felt like they were in hand, and Arizona just had to make a late comeback to make that score look a little bit closer than what it actually was.
Yeah, they are a wagon right now. I do think they'll get contested in the Final Four.
This Duke team has UConn national championship vibes in terms of no one's touching them in the tournament. I mean, they're just blowing teams out. Like they look like they haven't even been breaking a sweat out there.
Yeah, so far, I do think Houston or Tennessee can compete with them.
Yeah,
but just how well they shoot the ball, they're good on defense. Cooper Flagg's the best player in college basketball. It's just scary.
This team without Cooper Flagg could probably still be in the position that they're currently in.
Yeah, I mean, granted it's ACC, but we saw what they did in the ACC tournament when he got hurt.
Yeah,
it destroyed everyone.
Yeah.
Would they win the tournament without Flagg? I wouldn't be as confident, because Flagg is just
he's a difference maker.
He's such a difference maker on the court.
He's a 6'9" point guard essentially.
Do they make the Final Four without him? Yeah. Do I think they win the tournament without him? Probably not. But to be a Final Four team without the best player in college basketball that's on your roster is pretty. I mean, think about what Texas would have been without Trey Johnson.
Yeah.
They would have been a losing record team.
Yeah. They would have had like 9 wins this year. They would have been bad.
Yeah. But yeah, Duke is just an absolute wagon. It's hard to imagine them losing as of right now.
No, I completely agree. All right, Jake. Auburn, Michigan State. How are the vibes going into this?
Vibes aren't high because of my bracket, and it's get down to the nitty gritty in our bracket challenge. Vibes are low for me.
So you're thinking Auburn?
I am thinking Auburn. I want to pick Michigan State. Michigan State to me is just not as good as Auburn. It is that simple. Auburn is just, even when they don't play well, they're really good and they have guys who can shoot it. And it's going to come down to, does Michigan State have one of those games where they shoot well? How does Auburn shoot? And who wins the boards? And those types of things for me favor Auburn fairly heavily. Turnovers, that could be an area where Michigan State could get a little bit of an edge. I just see more edges for Auburn, but they're not huge margins. And so that does leave room for if Michigan State can just outplay them. They do have a chance to win this game. I want to pick Michigan State because I have them in my bracket. It's a 4.5 point spread for Auburn. I have to pick Auburn. I don't think Michigan State's going to win this game.
Yeah, I think the battle of the bigs is going to be big here. Can Carr and Broom, who wins that matchup down low? Who's getting the rebounds? Who's playing the best defensive basketball? Who's making life more difficult for the opposition? And who's going to guard who? Is Carr going to be put on Broom defensively? Is it going to be best on both ends of the court? Or are they going to have to switch assignments and give that guy a break defensively so he can do something offensively? I think that's really a lot of the strategy going into this between the coaching staff of how much do I want Broom on Carr and how much do I want Carr on Broom on either side of the ball, because they are each other's best options of stopping one another. And so I think that'll be a very interesting battle down low in the paint between the two big men. And then can Michigan State's youth at the guard position overcome what Auburn has at the guard position, where Auburn seems like they're the bigger, stronger team over Michigan State, which is typically not how I view a Michigan State team. This Michigan State team is more of a finesse team. They're more of a slasher team with their guards than they are, just kind of overpowering teams, where I feel like they've been that in the past. But I just feel like Auburn might just be the bigger and stronger team. I don't know about the faster team, but they're bigger and stronger. And I'm curious how Michigan State's going to counter that. Are their guards going to play good? Is Jace Richardson going to put up a performance like he did a couple nights ago? Is he going to, is Atkins going to shoot better than what he did a couple nights ago? Because they're going to have to if they want a chance to win this game. But I feel like Michigan State also on the flip side of it is more battle tested than Auburn is.
Yeah, that Ole Miss was a really good win. I know it was close, but the level of Ole Miss was leveled up from their form all season. They were playing their best basketball. I think they were playing some of the best basketball of any of the teams in the tournament. I think they were playing like one of the top 4 teams left. And Michigan State beat that team. So that, to me, that was a really good win. I think you said a name that stood out for me, and it's kind of an obvious one, but how does Jace Richardson play? How does he shoot from 3? I think he can be the difference maker in this game. I think if he plays really well, I think Michigan State wins this game. If he doesn't, I think they lose. And
throughout the whole season, he's I think averaging about 11 points per game. So he's had really good games where he can get up into the 20s. He's capable of doing that. But also on the flip side, he's capable of putting 8 and just putting up a dud and not really scoring as prolific as he did in the Sweet 16. And so that I think he's one of those players that when he's playing really well, this Michigan State team tends to follow along with that. I do think this is going to be a good game. It's more of a coin flip game to me. I think both games tomorrow are set up to be really, really good.
I think both games tomorrow are going to be a flop and they're going to be awful.
Yep. No, I agree. Houston, Tennessee is going to be the worst game of the tournament. Auburn, Michigan State's going to be a 20-point blowout. Yeah, going to be an awful, awful day for the Elite Eight tomorrow. Might as well not even watch it. I'm going to just to keep an eye on it, but I might have it on as like a secondary screen.
Yeah,
sort of
no
a
way
thing.
these games are close. I
Yeah.
mean, this is just set up to be a bad day in the tournament.
Yeah.
We're not going to get two good games for sure.
God,
no
no,
possible way.
Yeah, that I just don't think that happens in the month of March. Houston, Tennessee, though, Jake. I do think that this is going. I think this is going to be potential to be a good finish, but kind of a sloppy, grinded out. Just bumping each other and just it's just going to be a dogfight down low in the paint between getting rebounds and just fighting for points in the paint and getting to the basket. I think there's going to be a lot of fouls. I think there's going to be some sloppy play. It's going to be a physical game, very old school feel to it. You've got two coaches that come from an old school background, and their teams play like it.
I don't think this is going to be a sloppy game. I think sometimes physicality and sloppy confuse each other. I think this is going to be a really high level game of basketball. It's just not going to be high level in the sense of both teams scoring 80, 90 points.
Sure.
This is going to be a really physical ball game. This is going to be a high level defensive ball game. Both teams elite on defense. Both teams with a lot of athleticism. And I think the 3-ball, ironically, will decide the game. Who shoots better from the 3-point line? Who takes better shots from the 3-point line? Yep. I think maximizing your possessions in this game is really important. I think when you can get out and fast break and get some easy buckets, that's really important because I think scoring in the half court is just tremendously difficult against either of these defenses.
Whoever can get transition points and then score in the transition is going to be set up for success in this game.
Yeah, it's just both teams are so good in the half court defense. So what's the way to beat that? Get in transition, get easy buckets, points off turnovers, offensive rebounds for easy putbacks.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the things that fall.
But I got kids messing with me.
You deserve it. Yeah, karma. I love that. Keep messing with them, kids. Those are going to be the things that decide this game, though. Points off turnovers, second chance points, and then the 3-ball. Those will be what separate this game. Who do I pick to win? Tough. I'm going to roll with my bracket because for me, this is a coin flip game. So I'm going to roll with my bracket, and I'm going to say Tennessee takes it in a very close game.
I'm gonna go with I gotta run with my bracket here. I'm gonna go Houston in the Final Four, taking on Duke, and for all the reasons that you said, I just think both of these two teams match up so well against one another and similar styles of play that it's just gonna come down of who makes the bigger buckets at the biggest times in the game and the crucial moments of that's gonna turn the tide of this game. And I think I'm just gonna give it to Houston. For no other reason of thinking that they are, just poised to finally kind of get over that hump. I hope they can get over the hump. And I think
they've been to the Final Four.
I know, but I'd like to see Houston beat Duke. I'd like to see them get represented in the national championship more so than I think I would at Tennessee, to be completely honest with you. It's easier for me to root for Houston than it is for me to root for Tennessee. Also, I don't know if we gave a prediction on the Michigan State-Auburn game. I have Michigan State winning.
I said I had Auburn. That's hilarious because I have Michigan State on my bracket, but I'm picking Auburn. Which by the way, this Tennessee-Houston game, very big for our bracket challenge.
Yeah, well, yeah. So we both have Michigan State winning, but Houston, Tennessee, you've got Tennessee advancing. I've got Houston advancing, and that's really the big differentiator. And then also in the Final Four, if Michigan State wins in the Final Four, I've got Florida beating Michigan State. You have Michigan State beating St. John's.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lose this bracket challenge. I shouldn't have rolled with Michigan State to win it all, but maybe I'll end up being right.
It's Tom Izzo, dude. It's not a bad bet. Okay, so with all that being said, I've got Michigan State, Florida, Duke, and Houston in my Final Four.
I have St. John's. They're going to come back from the death and be in. I'm just doing my bracket Final Four here. Michigan State in, Duke in, Tennessee in.
Okay, yeah. Who do you have in real life?
Hey, my bracket is real life. First
So-
off, who do I have? I have Auburn, Tennessee,
Duke in Florida.
Duke in Florida.
Cool. All right, yeah, that's we will be back to talk about more
baseball?
college basketball tomorrow. Yep, and let's hit up on baseball. 8-1 in conference play. They pull off the clean sweep against Missouri. They had a doubleheader today, one at 2:00, one at 6:10, and they won 7-4 in the first part of the doubleheader, and in the second game, 7-1. And so put up a combined 22 runs against Missouri in all three games, and really just bats were firing on all cylinders, bombing it out of the field. And so, yeah, they played exactly how I would want this Texas Longhorn team to play against a team like Missouri, where you've got Texas State, who is a very good mid-major program, by the way, and then also a top 3, top 5 Georgia team series coming up next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, they did exactly what we want. Neither one of us watched much of this series, just being honest. Or at least I assume you didn't. I didn't.
I did not. Yeah.
Because of the basketball being on. That just took priority. If they would have been playing Georgia this weekend, I would have had it on my phone. Then playing Missouri, it's like, okay, well, if they don't sweep, I'm going to be disappointed. So I'm better just off not watching it. And just
I'm better off not watching. If the worst result that I'm expecting is a clean sweep from Missouri, I should just not watch.
But they did exactly what, when we did kind of preview this series, they did exactly what we wanted. Clean sweep, fairly dominant in the first game. We both wanted one more run roll, but I'm not going to complain when you get the sweep. Yeah. That's really all that matters. They just continue to roll. I mean, if you would have told me they were going to start 8-1 in conference play, I probably would have laughed at you, to be honest. I wouldn't have believed you. The job Schlossnagle has done with this team. I mean, to be where they are they going to stay top 5? I don't know. They're about to play they're about to get into it, win their schedule with some really tough series. They're going to drop a series. They're probably going to drop multiple series. But
we're going to learn a lot about this team in the next month of baseball. We're going to learn a lot about where this Texas baseball team lines up in terms on the national scale.
Yeah, we learned a lot in the LSU, but it's one thing to do that in one weekend at home in your opening SEC. It's another thing to do it on a week-to-week basis. And that week-to-week basis starts now. The rest of the schedule is tough. They've got 2 of their easier. Mississippi State's not a bad ball club. You did beat them, and that's great. But things are about to get a lot tougher, in my opinion, starting with Georgia. You get them at home. Can you win the series? Can you at least make sure you win one game? I don't think a sweep is in play for Texas. Georgia's a really good ball club, but we're going to find out a lot about this team next weekend. We're going to find out even more. And I think they have Texas State on Tuesday too.
Yeah.
Which that's a tough game. Texas State's a good baseball program. So this week, in general, we're going to learn a lot in just the rest of the season now. Every weekend is going to be big because can they compete to be in that tier 1 of the SEC, or are they going to fall more towards the top of that middle of the pack, which is where I feel like right now I don't see them dropping below that top of the middle of the pack.
I agree.
Which is higher than what either of us really expected going into the season. So they've already changed the kind of bar of the standard that we expected. And to me, that says everything about what Schlossnagle has done.
I completely agree. I can't add much more to that, Jake. Well, let's go ahead, wrap up the show, and we'll get everybody out here. Again, we will be on tomorrow around the same time for the remaining Elite 8 games, and probably a shorter episode for tomorrow, really with no other Texas sports going on aside from softball playing. So for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. This has been your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All in Horns. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.